follow me through the next 5 steps, and we'll build out a complete solution that's going to be worth at least $4,800 per client per year that you and me as web designers could do on our own if we wanted to. And the cool thing is, you'll be able to either use this solution straight up and offer it to somebody, or you can go through the same steps and build another solution because now you've got the formula. And here's how it works. Step 1 is define a purpose. This is the idea of like picking a niche, but you don't pick a niche just for the sake of shrinking the audience. The purpose of your solution naturally shrinks the audience because of the purpose. For example, if you have a hammer, well, what's the purpose of the hammer? Well, to drive nails, of course. So that kind of shrinks the audience down to the set of people that need to drive nails. It's not really going to be so helpful for people who are thirsty because hammers aren't really useful for that. But solving the problem of driving nails, hammers are really useful. So the idea is whatever the purpose is of your solution, that naturally shrinks the audience because they need a solution for that particular problem. So what if our purpose was get more test drives for auto dealerships? Well, that naturally shrinks the audience to people who have auto dealerships because the solution that we define is going to drive test drives for auto dealerships and probably won't be too effective for getting leads for local gym memberships or for getting seller listings for real estate agents, right? It's like the purpose of this is get more test drives for auto dealerships. So the purpose defines the niche. So that's step 1. Step 2 is, well, now we got to build the solution. So how do you get more test drives for auto dealerships? Well, what if you notice that dealership websites tend to get a lot of leads because they have a lot of lead magnet forms on there. Things like, tell us about your trade-in and we'll email you a quote for what your trade-in is worth. Or, fiddle in some numbers here and we'll figure out what your monthly payment's going to be and we'll email you the result. So a lot of times the auto dealerships are getting lots of email addresses and leads from those lead magnets, but they're not being very smart about the way they send out the emails. They tend to just blast out emails with no regard to what people are clicking within the messages. So what if you did better than that? What if you said, okay, let's keep doing all the stuff you're already doing, but this time when you send out the email, if somebody clicks on the Toyota Tacoma, then the next day we'll send an email that says, hey, did you see the car and driver report on the Toyota Tacoma? People love this thing. Check this thing out. And then at the bottom of that email say, hey, we got one on the lot. Why don't you come in for a test drive? And then a couple days later from that, you can say, did you see this really cool YouTube video about the Toyota Tacoma? People are loving it. Look, they're taking jet skis to the lake and having all this great fun. And so what you're doing is you're building up excitement about the car that you know the person likes because they clicked it in the first place. And then another day goes by and you say, hey, you've got special financing on the Tacoma. Come on in for a test drive. And if you do that, I guarantee you will get more test drives than if you don't do that. Right? How many? I don't know. You can't calculate an exact number, but it's certainly going to be more effective than not doing that. Right? So that's a solution that will drive more test drives than if they weren't doing that. Okay, so now you've got a solution that will actually get a cool result for the audience that you're trying to serve. So how do you price it? Well, in the beginning, if it's your first client, you've never done it, and you're just trying to get the rough edges smoothed out, what if you did a commission-only approach for the first client and say, hey, let me just set this thing up, and when you sell cars, because of the work that I'm doing, cut me in for $100, $100 commission on every car that I sell through this system. And then that would be pretty cool because what if you just sold 1 car per week? That would be about 4 cars per month. So now you're making $400 a month, which would be $4,800 per year, which is back in the beginning when I said this is probably worth $4,800 a year. That's assuming that you could sell 1 car a week and get $100 of a commission off of doing that. Well, what if you got more than $100? What if you got $200 commission? Well, now you're up near almost $10,000. Or what if you sold more than 1 car a week? Well, same thing. So it's a pretty good idea that you can use and kind of onboard your own clients with this concept. And it's such an overlooked thing because a lot of web designers don't really think about the power of email marketing. Because as a web designer, whenever you put the links into those emails, you got to click and go to a landing page where you see the stuff, right? And you and I, we can design those pages and send the emails. So web designers are awesome for email marketing because you get to do a lot of web design in the mix. Okay, so now we got the solution built out. We know kind of how to price it with this commission idea. Well, how do you get leads? Well, in the beginning, I recommend doing it in person. Like, you don't want to just email people and hope for the best. Like, physically go to an auto dealership. Maybe you know somebody, maybe you recently bought a car, maybe a friend of yours bought a car, maybe you could just kind of get introduced by way of something like that where you can just go in and have an in-person conversation. And you can say, hey, I've got this system that I built that will get more test drives for auto dealerships, and you don't even need more leads, and it's a pay-per-performance kind of thing where I only want $100 per sold car. And if y'all don't sell any cars, it's no cost to you. And so that's your first client, and that'll get you some good case studies coming in, because who would say no to that? And then if you don't want to do the commission only approach, you could price it out based on the results of that first client. Or you might like the commission only idea, because that might be more lucrative than having a fixed price. So let that first cost plus commission client sort of define what you feel comfortable charging, because that way, even when you're kind of smoothing out those rough edges, you don't feel bad about it, because the client's not really paying for you to learn how to do something for the first time, because it's a commission only kind of a thing. So that way you don't really feel the pressure, but yet you're not working for free either. So that's how I would start with getting leads. And then once you had that first case study, then you can put a landing page up. And by the way, call this thing something. Like when you're building out the solution, give it a name. Like get a website and it says getmoretestdrives.com, something like that. So it feels like an actual product that's proprietary, that you own, and that it's like a real thing, not just email marketing. Okay. So now that you've got all that going on, when you want to begin to scale this out, once you've got that case study from that commission client, you can decide if you want to keep the commission approach, or maybe you want to do more of a fixed thing where you charge $100 a month, or $100 a week, or $5,000 a month, or just whatever based on that first result. You'll be able to get in a ballpark where it's going to be good for you and good for the client. But in terms of onboarding the clients, instead of having to go like face-to-face to all the dealerships, now you can send people to your landing page, and you've got that case study to prove that it works. And then you can onboard clients in 2 steps. The first step is to get people to call you so that you can kind of do a Zoom presentation and show people how this thing works. And then the second step is, once they're on the call with you, then that's when you enroll them into the system. So it's tempting to think that the website should sell the service, but it doesn't work that way. The website sells the call, and the call enrolls people into the service. So if you break it up into those 2 steps, you'll have much higher conversion rates. Because if you don't do it, and you want to do it all in one step, where people have to click here and get started, kind of a call to action on your landing page, people aren't really ready to get started yet. It's too expensive, $5,000, $10,000. It's going to be too expensive to just click here and start now. They want to talk to you first. So if you don't try to create buying intent on the landing page, and really try to create call intent, like curiosity intent, it's much easier. And then once you have the person on the call and you can create the buying intent on the call, it's easier to enroll the clients from there. So that's the whole package. So just a quick summary. Step 1 is you define a purpose. The purpose defines the niche. Step 2 is you build out the solution that actually fulfills on that purpose. Step 3 is pricing. Start with commission only when you're kind of smoothing out the rough edges, and then you can decide if you want to keep it a cost plus commission client, or if you want to do more of a fixed price thing based on the results of that first client. And then step 4, get leads. Start in person with your warm network if you can, and then once you have the case study, then it's much easier to expand to colder traffic. And then step 5, onboarding clients in 2 steps, where the first step is to get the call, and the second step is to actually enroll the client into your service. And if you do that, you can take this exact pattern, and you've got at least $4,800 a year, assuming that you're only getting $100 per car, and each car sells once a week. So you're only selling 4 extra cars per month at that rate. And that'd be a great service. Or kind of take this model and change the purpose, and then keep following those 5 steps, and you've got a solution for anything that you want, and it's awesome. Everybody wins.